Monica Makes It Happen is proudly supported by Goya. If it's Goya, it has to be good. JP Morgan Chase, New York's hometown bank for over 225 years, and by Ponce Bank, your community bank.
Hi, everybody. You're watching the Monica Makes It Happen show. It's all about money matters, and we're unafraid and unapologetic to talk about money and the value that it brings to our lives. And how do we do it? How do we break through? Because for so many of us, at least for me, I know it's been hard to talk about it. And when you can't talk about it, you can't make it. It doesn't naturally flow in. So I am so excited to have CEOs like this one today. Sonya Shields is here. Sonya, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
She is the president of Shields Consulting 333 and providing strategic guidance and executive coaching to nonprofit leaders and boards. So what she's been able to do is make money, millions of dollars for nonprofits, and also keep to her mission, keep to her integrity, keep to who she is and like what her destiny is. So I'm very excited to have her. Sonya, thank you for joining us. And I want to just start off with your story. 25 years of helping organizations raise millions of dollars and grow. How did this all begin?
I was on a track in Washington, D.C. when I came out of Howard to work in PR. I loved writing. I loved telling stories, and I thought that was my path. And then it was this burning inside of me that I just sort of knew I wasn't a corporate person. I didn't know much about the nonprofit sector, but I knew that I wasn't supposed to go corporate. And so I started pursuing communication positions in nonprofits. And there wasn't a lot of those positions during that time. I ended up getting a position in a development department. I knew nothing about development, raising money by writing direct mail appeals and telemarketing scripts for an environmental justice organization called Physicians for Social Responsibility, which is around still today. And I was like 27 years old and I was raising millions of dollars, and I was there for about 3 years and I got the bug. I fell into development, and I've been on that path ever since. I learned that, I can write and tell stories to raise money and make a social impact.
That's so valuable. I mean, every organization needs that. And I love that you said right, because it really is a focus, I think, for young people specifically. If we're talking to young people, writing is very important. Being able to talk and be able to write down what your message is clearly in a very concise way. I think just on the job as a journalist, that's helped me become a better writer. Not naturally a great writer. I come from writers, but not naturally. So it's okay, right? It's okay to learn on the job, I think. You don't always have to know everything. Tell me about that moment where you knew that you were destined for this, for raising money and also putting your mission inside.
It's so interesting that you're asking that, because it happened so organically. I went to another nonprofit and I stepped into a situation where there were a lot of things that needed to happen. There was people that needed to kind of step into a role of producing an event, because I remember we didn't have an event producer at the time, and I produced this really big event. And then I was also still writing copy and writing scripts. And so I was, raising money through the membership. And then I did this major campaign to bring in new members. We ended up bringing in like 3,000 new members. And then I was running the newsletter. And I was doing so many different things somewhat seamlessly, because I just have, I think, very strong project management abilities. I shouldn't say I think, I do. And also the storytelling and just the hunger. I was so passionate, and I have a growth mindset. I had it then, and I still have a growth mindset.
Where does that come from? Does that come from, did you learn that from your family, or did you learn that from a teacher? Did you learn that, or were you just born with it? I'm trying to figure out, these incredible people, are you born with it, or do you learn it? Does someone help you in a mentor? Is it all of the above?
I think definitely my mother has always been a hard worker, and she set me up for success in a lot of ways. She put me in different types of programs and just in different environments. I just remember her helping me with my resume, and she just really made me feel, along with my grandmother, really made me feel like I just I need to, I come from excellence. You see what, like I come from
Yeah.
excellence.
Yeah.
And then I went to Howard University and I was taught excellence. And so I've taken that very seriously to not, disappoint my family. I also just at a very young age, and this is a true story, when I was 3 years old, I was supposed to be taking a nap. I think I was 3 or 4. I was supposed to be taking a nap in nursery school, and I was awake for some reason. All of the other kids were sleeping, and I was laying there thinking, "How did I end up here?" Like I was actually sort of having a conversation with God. I was like, "How did I end up here in this environment?" I grew up in Great Neck, Long Island. It was not a lot of Black folks in Great Neck, Long Island now, and it wasn't back in the 60s and 70s when I was a child. And I remember thinking, I'm supposed to do something impactful in my life. And I've never, ever forgotten that. Of course, I lost that connection. I prayed and all of that growing up, but I remember that years later, and I think about it all the time because I knew I'm supposed to do something. And so I've just been driven in that way ever since. I'm just very purpose driven.
I love that story. I can see you as a little girl and look at you now. It really was a premonition or something where,
Something.
yeah, you just knew that you were destined for greatness. And I love that conversation too. Did you ask in that moment, like, what is my purpose? Or what was did you have a
I
question?
remember I can see myself right now. I'm telling you. And I was thinking, how did we end up here? Why not California? I don't know why. I was always obsessed with Hollywood. I think I wanted to be an actress.
Yeah.
And I was
I was going to
obsessed.
say you look like an actress, actually. You look like you could be
Oh,
in
thank you.
Hollywood. I was going to say
Thank
that,
you.
but I didn't know
I
how
was
you'd feel.
obsessed.
Yeah.
I was obsessed. I was obsessed with music and entertainment. And my first boyfriend, of course, was Michael Jackson from the Jackson
Uh,
5. So I was just obsessed. And I was like, why are we in Hollywood? It's actually asking those questions. And then I just lost it. And, you get caught up in your environment and all of the things in life. Um, and even my path to get to Howard University was just accidental. It just was by chance that I ended up going to Howard.
what? Tell me
Yes, by
that
chance.
story. I got to hear that story.
I went to Great Neck North High School. It was not a lot of Black folks, and there was a teacher, Mr. Jenkins. I never had him as a teacher. He saw me walking in the hallway. He knew who I was. I was on the basketball team. I was one of the stars, if you will, on the basketball team. So he knew who I was, and he called me into his office, and I was like, "Okay, what does Mr. Jenkins want?" He said, "Where are you applying to school, Sonia?" And I told him that I had gotten a number of scholarships
Yeah.
to go, and I had a free ride to go play basketball, but I really did not want to go upstate New York. I was like, I really need to not go down that path. I had a
Yeah.
feeling that I would just end up back home. Something told me that's not my path. And he said, "Well, why don't you apply to Spelman or Howard University?" He started naming these HBCUs, which I hadn't really thought about. And so I went home and I talked to my parents about it, and I applied to Howard. I can't remember so long ago the other schools I might have applied to, but I got into Howard. And I remember that day when my mother opened up my mail and said, "You got into Howard."
Oh
And we
my
just looked at each
gosh.
other. It was a Saturday and we looked at each other. And
Ah,
I had some conversations with a few people that I knew who graduated from Howard. And I was like, okay, I'm going. And so I turned down the scholarships to go to Howard.
wow. What a moment, too. I can see that you're so good at storytelling. I could see when you open up, was it a letter at that time? And now it's
Yes,
emails, right?
absolutely.
Life
And it was a
changing.
Saturday. I remember it was about midday, and my mother just opened up the mail, and I remember we just stared at each other. I was like, okay, this is going to be a completely different path, and it was. And I just knew, I was like, I'm going to take complete advantage of this opportunity. And it really, Howard built me up for sure.
So when I ask our guests about practical strategies about money, because the show is all about money, I have to say, I think probably one of your biggest strengths that I'm getting here, maybe also as a woman, is that intuitive going with your gut. I think that's the
Yes.
hardest thing because I go against my gut, and I know every time I do that, I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble.
Yes.
And so I tell my daughter this, but it's easier said than done. But you did it so many times. So how do you do that as a personal strategy? Because I know that that's important too in business.
It's a really interesting question. There was a time in my life where when I think about Howard and coming out and building my career, I was very, very action oriented. I was very strategic about every single move. It was in my head a lot, thinking about the next step, writing things down, just really on top of details. Not that I'm not now, and not that I didn't have an intuitive ability, but I was not as conscious as I am now. Now I have this way of sort of tapping in to this other realm, dimension, God, the universe, and I'm able to just understand what the moves should be. I think it was always there. I just didn't know it, but now I know it because I've been meditating for about 8 years.
Did you say meditate?
Yeah.
You were the
Yes.
second. Sometimes if three people tell you the same thing, you're supposed to be leaning into meditation. And I had a doctor from Mount Sinai yesterday on our show, and she is very deep into meditation. So when we come back, I want more stories from you. I want more information, more golden tips for money making strategies, but also just life strategies. It's all one, right? That's when we come back.
All connected.
It's all connected. That's when we come back.
Monica's Money Matters is proudly supported by JP Morgan Chase, New York's hometown bank for over 225 years.
Okay, we're back with Sonya Shields, the president and CEO of Shields Consulting 333. How do we reach you, and how do we access you?
Oh, thanks. I'm on Instagram and I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. You can find me under my name, Sonya Shields. I also have a website, Shields Consulting 333, and I've just launched a new workshop series, a new sort of podcast workshop series called Coalesce Live with my business partner, Jonathan Meager Zayas. And so you can find us on LinkedIn as well. We have a workshop that's going to launch on April 1st, so you can find out all of the information. I'm very excited. It's an offering to the nonprofit sector, to people working in social movements, and to philanthropists. And so, yeah, those are the places you can find me.
Because it's so valuable, your guidance, because you are a guide in this process it's very difficult. Many nonprofits have these incredible ideas, but making it happen, bringing it to the making it happen stage is a whole other, and it's getting the money too. Money's so hard to get.
Yes.
But maybe that's a mentality too that I need to get rid of. But first steps an organization can do and can help get that funding that they need.
That's your question?
Yes. Like what would you say? What are those first few steps? Like if someone has a great idea and they have, maybe they have a nonprofit or an organization they want to bring to the next level. What are those first few steps that you think do they have to write it down? Do they have to have a clear vision?
Oh, it's so, it's such, oh God, we could talk about that for a couple of hours. I would say, let me put it to you this way. I am called in usually because an organization is going through some major transition. There's some issue, there's some turnover, they're stuck in some way in terms of resource generation. And even my positions in my career as an executive in fundraising, I never walked in any environment that, just was swimming in money, some more than others, but there is so many different moving parts. One of the fundamental things that I think gets lost in the nonprofit sector is not understanding the importance of communications and marketing. So a lot of nonprofits do not prioritize storytelling. They don't prioritize their narrative, their case for support, how they are telling their story. And they have to tweak that story to some degree for different audiences, but also it needs to be under the same umbrella, if you will. So what you put on social media is not the same thing you're going to obviously put into a grant proposal, right? Or it's not the same thing that you would, pitch to a corporation. So you have to understand those different strategies of how you, tell your stories and the impact of your work to engage these different audiences for funding. And one of the most fundamental things that a lot of nonprofits don't understand, it's more about why you do what you do. It's not how you do what you do, it's why. Your why is everything. Our why, my purpose, your purpose. It's our why. And the same thing for a nonprofit as well. So a lot of times you can be talking to someone on the program team, even some of the leaders, and you ask them, why do you do what you do? Or you ask them, tell me about your organization. And they'll tell you about the sort of the day-to-day, how they do what they do. They go very much into the weeds. And a lot of people just, they kind of zone out because you want to be able to tell the story to engage people right away, to feel inspired. You want to connect with them emotionally. And, that's an art. And a lot of nonprofits don't invest in that. So you go to a lot of nonprofits and they might have a communications associate or manager, but they usually don't have a high level comms person on their executive leadership team. And some of them don't even have, the infrastructure that's supporting revenue generation. They don't have high level development professionals either. I mean, some of the organizations with relatively big budgets are still slow to understanding that they have to invest in development and fundraising as well.
Yeah, you know what I love too in the C-suites? A lot of times you think they're so smart. Everyone's so smart. But really, it's that practical experience and that passion that you're talking about, that story and that drive that can really maybe if you don't have the MBA, that's important too. Education's always important, but it is important to have that real life experience that I think is so valuable now, especially with AI and all this stuff taking over all that stuff. What do you think about that? I mean, what do you tell someone who might be maybe a working mom, someone who hasn't been in the field for very long, who has a great idea, who wants to make it happen, doesn't have an MBA, but wants to start their nonprofit or their organization and needs funding to do it? What would you suggest? What are some strategies for them?
I'm going to be honest that I don't think sometimes we need any more nonprofits. I think that I don't. I think that we have so many nonprofits right now that are under-resourced that are competing for funds right now. I will tell you that after COVID, for example, I was asked by someone working for the city who asked me to participate in a workshop where he was, sort of doing capacity building. He invited all of these women who had just formed nonprofit organizations, and they wanted to talk to someone with expertise. And it was probably maybe 2022 around that time. And it was an evening workshop on Zoom. I come into the Zoom and there's all of these women.
Yeah.
And they all had started nonprofits. Now, well-intentioned, obviously coming from the right place, feeling like they needed to kind of, fill a gap that they thought existed. Yeah. But running a nonprofit is running a business.
Yes.
And you have to be ready to run a business. It is serious. And so you have to have a really good understanding of your model. How is your model going to generate funds? Whether it's funds, in terms of federal and state, whether it's going to, you have a model that you'll be able to generate individual giving, because a lot of times, nonprofits are also becoming very reliant on government funds. And we see what's going on in terms of the pullbacks from government funds. So you have to very much understand your model, your narrative, your brand, whether there's an audience for funding from individuals, first of all. And you can't say, well, I'm just passionate about the mission. I'm really not a fundraiser. You can't be an executive director of an organization and say you don't want to fundraise, because that's a huge part of your job. So if you are a founder of an organization because you're mission driven, you need to lean into fundraising too. One of the things that helped me years ago in terms of my shift around fundraising is I started to see myself as doing philanthropic education, right? Because I had never raised money before. And so now I have this big job. I had moved from writing copy to now I'm a director of development. I have to meet with wealthy people sometimes, corporations. I have to ask for serious money. And so I'm like, a fish out of water at first. And I was like, if I'm going to succeed in this field, I've got to figure this out. So I had to have a mindset shift around money. First of all, it's not personal. It's not personal. You are connecting with a person based on values, hopefully, And, it's based on values. It's not based on their checking account. And it's based on whether they want to partner with you and your organization to make a social impact. And if they tell you no, if they're not interested in contributing, it's not a no to you personally, right? Maybe not now. Maybe maybe they prioritize art and culture. Maybe there are other, missions that they're more interested in. Maybe they have 2 kids in college right now and they have tuition to worry about, but people will take it very personally. They get very fearful about fundraising. I started seeing myself as doing philanthropic education and advocacy and philanthropic mobilization. And I started calling myself a change agent. And when when I started to really step into that power and really claim that, things started to change for me, and I just became more and more comfortable with asking for money. So I will just say, to end this point, because I know I'm being a little long-winded, I just really want to emphasize that anyone who wants to start a nonprofit, you've got to lean into a passion for raising money.
I love I wrote everything you just said. It was so good. And I love the values, because I think of your value. I had a boss say, just become more valuable, keep getting more valuable. So I really took that to heart when I entered the networks. I was like, just become more valuable, always be recalibrating, trying to bring value to your, to whatever organization even if it's your organization. But when you said values, you got me, because it's true. You want to align with people who have your values. And that's where the rub comes, because sometimes you team up with people who don't have the same values you do.
Right.
And you're wondering, why is this not working? It's because you have to find, I hate to say your tribe, your vibe. This little 13-year-old told me, hey, my vibe is my tribe. I agree. You have to find people with like-minded values and also bringing value. I love that. So when we come back, I'm going to do a speed round that I like to do with all my CEOs. That's after the break. Thank you. We're back with Sonya Shields, the president of Shields Consulting, 333. Thank you, Sonya, so far. I mean, you have just so many incredible tips for us, and just from personal experience. But I wrote everything, your mindset, don't take it personally. I think so many times you do. And that's even because you're in, the nonprofit world, or you're trying to help people, don't take it personally. Can we do our speed round? I love doing this. Yes. All right. One word that defines great leadership.
Ooh, that's hard.
I know,
great leadership.
I don't know how I came up with that one, but I was just thinking, because you're such a leader and you deal with leaders. Like, what's one word you'd say?
Being bold. Being bold.
Number one is being bold, right? The biggest mistake organizations make when they're trying to raise money. What's the biggest mistake you've seen?
Thinking it's one person's job and not working collaboratively and really investing time and time and understanding that it's a collaboration. It's a collaboration across leadership, the development team, program, and the board of directors. It's collaborative.
I love that. It's a team. So most important quality you find in someone who wants to build wealth and impact like yourself?
Ooh, growth mindset.
They have to have the mindset that you have. It's
Growth
almost
mindset.
like, yeah, right? And you never, ever give up. It's like you just keep trying. Best
Keep
advice,
going.
best advice you've ever received about money or leadership. What's the best advice you've received?
It's been in the past few years. I'm a part of this Wealth Builders course, and it's been a game changer for me. I've talked about money, thought about money every single day because of my career. When I thought about it, I was like, money has been core to my career every single day for, really longer than 25 years, because even before I became an executive, so there were several years. So I would say it's almost 30 years. But really focusing on understanding finance, understanding money and how to make money while you're sleeping, and that money is energy. Just, my whole relationship to money has changed. So I think it's enhanced my professional services because I'm becoming more educated personally as well as a result of being a part of the Wealth Builders course.
I love that. One habit that successful nonprofit leaders have that you've noticed in your travels, in your everyday conversations in the C-suites, what is the one habit that you think successful nonprofit leaders have?
The ones that know how to communicate concisely.
That's so good. You know why? Because just before this podcast or digital show, I was trying to write something and it was so long. It was just so much. And then I just thought, this is going to have to be like at least 3 points, like 3 bullet points. And I was able to do it and it was so much more clear. But it was so hard. It's hard to do that, right? It's hard to put it,
Yes.
simple and to the point is the hardest part. So I just did that. I don't know how well I did, but I think I did okay. A book or resource you recommend to someone that just helped you so much to become a stronger leader, the leader like you. What's a book that you like?
Oh my goodness. I mean, do you really want to focus on? I think what has been core to my success in the past 20 years has been the fact that I'm just a much more conscious person. I'm just a more conscious person. So the book that changed my life is Eckhart Tolle's book, A New Earth, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose.
Oh, I love
that book changed my life. And I just listened to a podcast yesterday that he was on. When I saw that Eckhart Tolle was there, I was like, all in. He was on Lewis Howes.
Does he write the Here and Now, that Here and Now book, or the Now?
Yes, The Power of Now was one of his first books. Of course, sold millions and millions, and then A New Earth. I have no idea of the numbers, but it was a game changer. It helped me in terms of my leadership, because in the most trying, difficult environments, I've been in some difficult environments, I've been able to just kind of go inside and just understand that don't take it personal, that, this too shall pass. I can see when people are more ego driven, that they are making decisions based on ego and not based on, intentions that are really about purpose and impact and mission. So I'm just much more aware. And I don't have it all perfect. Obviously, I'm a work in progress like everyone else, but I do have more tools that have definitely strengthened my leadership abilities and how I interact and relate to people.
I love it. And how do we reach you? We got to say it one more time. If we want to reach you, we love what you're saying. We want to maybe, start that course that you're doing. How do we do it? How do we do it?
So I'm on Instagram, Sonya Shields on Instagram, and I'm on LinkedIn, I'm on Facebook. I would say I'm the most present on Instagram and on LinkedIn.
Me too.
And Coalesce Live has a LinkedIn page. I would love for people to follow, because it is the 3 pillars are nonprofit management, social movements, movement building, and philanthropy. And those are the pillars. And we're bringing in some top-notch thought leaders to be in conversation. It's going to be a place to have real conversations, offer real tools, and to make real change in this country. And Lord knows we need it right now. So,
well, thank you, Sonya. We're going to definitely follow. I love Instagram too and LinkedIn, so I'm going to follow you on all of those. I think I already do.
Thank you so much.
But thank you. And this is a start of many, many segments to come.
I hope so.
And don't forget to watch our show on television too. I always say we're on TV 2 at 11 o'clock on Mondays. Just remember Monica Money Mondays, and also right here on our digital space and our platforms at Pix11. Always, if you miss our show, just go to pix11.com/Monica and you'll see it on our website. Thank you, Sonya. We're making it happen together.
Yes. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.